Christmas was never about gifts for me. It was about belonging, about sitting in the same room with people who shared your blood and pretending, just for one evening, that life hadn't pulled you all in different directions. No matter how difficult the year had been, I always believed Christmas fixed things, even if only temporarily. That belief shattered the afternoon my sister called. Her name flashed on my phone, and I smiled instinctively. Sana rarely called these days. She was busy with wedding plans, new friends, a new life. I answered warmly, already imagining conversations about decorations and food. Her voice, however, was careful. Too careful. I've been thinking about Christmas, she said slowly, and I think it might be better if you skip it this year. For a moment, my mind refused to process her words. Skip Christmas. I laughed awkwardly. What do you mean? Why would I skip? She sighed. My future in-laws will be there. They're very particular people, and your job. She paused, choosing her words like knives wrapped in silk. It's a bit embarrassing. I don't want them asking questions or making comments. Embarrassing. The word echoed in my head louder than anything else she said. I worked long hours as an office assistant. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid my rent. It kept me independent. I had never asked anyone for money. Yet somehow, to her, it made me unworthy of sitting at the same table. So you're ashamed of me? I said quietly, no. She replied quickly, but her voice lacked conviction. It's not like that. I just want everything to be perfect. No drama. Perfect. That was the moment I understood. I wasn't her sister in that moment. I was a flaw in her picture. After the call ended, the silence in my apartment felt heavier than usual. The Christmas lights I had already hung flickered softly, mocking my excitement from earlier. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, replaying her words again and again. I didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because the hurt went deeper than tears. It settled into a quiet ache, the kind that changes you. That night, I packed away the gifts I had bought for her. I turned off the lights, and for the first time in my life, I realized something painful but powerful. If I was embarrassing for simply surviving, then one day I would become unforgettable. And I would never again beg for a place where I was clearly not wanted. After that Christmas, life moved on the way it always does, without apologizing. There was no dramatic fallout, no family confrontation. Just a quiet distance that settled between me and the people who once felt permanent. Sana didn't call, and I didn't chase. For the first time, I allowed the silence to stay. I threw myself into work, not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because work was the one place where effort still mattered. My office wasn't impressive. Beige walls, humming computers, and the smell of instant coffee, but it was mine. Every morning I arrived early, organizing files no one wanted to touch, fixing mistakes others ignored, learning systems I was never formally trained to use. At first, no one noticed, and that was fine. I wasn't doing it for recognition. I was doing it because I needed to feel useful in a world that had quietly labeled me insignificant. Evenings were the hardest. I would come home to a small apartment that echoed when I closed the door. Social media didn't help. Sana's wedding updates filled my screen, smiling photos, expensive venues, captions about dreams coming true. I would scroll past them quickly, reminding myself that appearances didn't tell the whole story. Months passed, then something shifted. My manager started asking for my opinion during meetings. A small thing, but it mattered. Soon, tasks meant for senior staff landed on my desk. When a major project nearly failed due to poor planning, I stayed late for 3 nights straight, untangling the mess quietly. The project succeeded, and my name appeared in an email sent to the entire department. That was the first time I felt seen, the The promotions didn't come all at once. They came slowly, earned through consistency rather than charm. A better title, a small raise, more responsibility. I didn't announce any of it to my family. Not out of spite, but because they had already decided who I was. 2 years went by like this. My life expanded in ways no one witnessed. I moved to a better place, bought my own car, learned to trust myself. By the time another Christmas approached, I no longer felt the sting of the first one. I had built something solid in the quiet, something that didn't depend on anyone's approval. I finally understood a truth no one teaches you early enough. Sometimes, the people who doubt you are unknowingly giving you space to grow. And I was growing silently, steadily, and without asking for permission. Some days change your life without announcing themselves. That Monday started like any other. I arrived early, coffee in hand, mentally listing deadlines and meetings. The glass walls of my office reflected a version of me I barely recognized anymore. Calmer, sharper, someone who knew her place and owned it. At exactly 3 o'clock, my assistant buzzed my phone. "Your meeting is here." I grabbed my notebook and walked into the conference room, already shifting into professional mode. Then I looked up. Cameron stood near the table, adjusting his cufflinks, confident and polished in a tailored suit. For half a second our eyes met, and everything froze. The confident smile on his face disappeared, replaced by pure disbelief. His gaze flicked from my face to the nameplate on the table, then back again, as if the words refused to make sense. You could almost hear the moment his world realigned. "You work here?" he asked, his voice low, unsure. "I do," I replied calmly, taking my seat at the head of the table. "I'm the operations manager. I'll be overseeing this partnership." Something shifted in his posture instantly. The man who had once seemed untouchable now looked careful, even nervous. He cleared his throat and opened his folder with hands that betrayed him. As the meeting went on, he addressed me with formal respect, nodding at my suggestions, agreeing with my corrections. Each time he said, "That makes sense," or "We'll adjust accordingly," I felt a quiet satisfaction, not triumph, but validation. I hadn't imagined my growth. It was real. I never mentioned sauna. I didn't need to. The silence between us spoke louder than any confrontation ever could. When the meeting ended and the others left the room, Cameron stayed behind. The glass door clicked shut, sealing us in a moment neither of us had expected. "I didn't know," he said finally, "about you, about where you ended up." I smiled, professional but distant. Most people didn't. He nodded slowly, as if absorbing a lesson he never thought he'd need. There was embarrassment in his eyes now, maybe even regret, but I felt none of the anger I had imagined all those nights alone, just clarity. As he walked out, I realized something important. This wasn't revenge in the way I once pictured it. There were no sharp words, no public humiliation. The real power was standing exactly where I was, unapologetic, accomplished, and unhidden. And for the first time, the past no longer had the upper hand. Christmas came quietly that year. No grand plans, no forced gatherings, just a sense of calm I had never associated with the season before. I was in my office late one evening, city lights glowing through the window, when my phone rang. It was Sana. For a moment I considered letting it ring, not out of bitterness, but because I finally understood that I didn't owe everyone immediate access to me anymore. Still, I answered. "I heard about you," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. "Cameron told me everything, your position, your company. I waited. I had learned the power of silence. I didn't know you were doing so well." She continued, "I was wrong about you, about your job." There it was. Not dramatic, not emotional, just a truth slipping out after too long. "You didn't ask." I said gently. The line went quiet. I imagined her sitting somewhere warm and decorated, surrounded by the very perfection she once wanted to protect. "I'm sorry," she finally whispered. "I judged you. I cared too much about how things looked." I closed my eyes, letting the apology settle. I had rehearsed this moment in my head countless times, imagining sharp replies and overdue anger. But standing here now, none of that felt necessary. "I forgive you," I said, and I meant it not because she deserved immediate forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. That night, I chose not to attend her Christmas dinner, not as punishment, but as a boundary. I spent the evening with people who never asked for my title, only my presence. We shared simple food, honest laughter, and stories that didn't need polishing. Later, alone, I reflected on how far I had come. The revenge I once imagined wasn't loud or cruel. It didn't involve proving her wrong at the table she denied me. It was quieter. It was becoming someone who no longer needed approval from the people who once doubted her. It was forgiving without forgetting, and moving forward without dragging the past behind me. As the clock struck midnight, I realized something profound. Success didn't change how others saw me. It changed how I saw myself. And that was the sweetest victory of all.